This is Don't Panic, episode number 15, recorded September 23rd, 2013, on TouchID hacks, Steam on Linux, and crispy chips. Good evening, and welcome. It is not Tuesday night, it is Monday night, and that now means only one thing. That's right, it is Don't Panic, and we are here to make your life that much better. I am Shaun Jennings, trying to plug my headphones in, and being joined, as always, by the fantastic and wonderful Dan Miller. Dan, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be going before Colby for the first time in the history of Don't Panic.
That can't be right. Is that true?
Beside myself. Intentionally, I think it's the first time.
Here.
Well, no, I was about to say
yeah, that's true.
And of course, thank you, Dan, and of course, as sometimes, Colby Rabideau. Colby, how you doing?
I'm pretty good.
I am excited because, we're now on Monday nights.
Yay, the
It's
best
Monday
night of the
Tech.
week.
That's right, because who doesn't love Mondays? Except that damn Garfield cat, but that guy was a jerk. Our usual housekeeping stuff, we are now Monday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern. That is 8 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Mountain Time, I don't know. And we are live online on our website, don'tpanic.io. Click the Listen Live link. Not only can you watch the video there, but you can hang out with us in the chat room. We're there right now. Give us your questions, your feedback, chit-chat with us. We get a lot of good stuff there. And, of course, if you can't listen live, it's going to be okay because it is always available after the fact, audio and video, usually within a day or two, on our website, don'tpanic.io. And you definitely got to check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/don'tpanicshow. Not only are we going to update you when we're live and shows are published, but we have a new feature where every week we're going to condense the show down to about 2 minutes, give you the brief version before you sit through us dragging on for an hour. So you can check that out on our Facebook page as well. And also, the whole show is going to be me updating people on what we're doing. We are now on a little place called iTunes.
Whoa.
I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No.
It is a software. It's terrible and it doesn't work well, but it now contains Don't Panic Show. You can go on to the iTunes store, search Don't Panic. You can also find links on our Facebook page as well. So definitely subscribe. Get us every single week delivered straight to your device.
I can't wait for 30 years from now when we'll get that post on whatever the 30 years from now Hacker News is, where it's like, take a look at the original iTunes 11 source code. Check out what terrible things it does. If you have more than 2,000 songs, searching for something takes 15 seconds. I can't wait for that. It's gonna take a while. We're just now really looking at the original Apple source, but someday we'll all have a laugh.
Someday we'll all know.
Yes, we will. Well, speaking of Apple, I can't think of a better transition than that, because we're going to move on to our first story. No theme this week, we're just talking the news, and I can't think of bigger news than Apple, of course. We talked last week 2 weeks ago, about the launch of the iPhone. Now iOS 7 is out, and the first big story comes out of the Chaos Computer Club. This is a hacking group of hackers, and they are claiming that they have defeated Apple's TouchID. Now, how you may wonder, not via software. They actually managed to do it in using hardware. Just briefly what they did, and you can find out more on their website, but essentially what they did was they took a photograph of someone's fingerprint that had the smudge on the screen at 2400 DPI. They laser printed it onto a transparent sheet, added a little latex onto that, and that was about it. Made it a little moist and stuck it right on there, and boop, boop, hacked it right away. So we had a big discussion when this was first rumored, and then again when it was announced. Is fingerprinting a good idea on a mobile device like a phone? Dan, what does this mean?
Here's what it comes down to. Before this, no one had to do that to get into your device. They had to know a 4-digit code or watch you type it in or just press the button that turns the screen on because you don't have a lock on it. Now, if you have one of these, you probably do have the lock on it because it's so easy and it's so much fun. I did it in the Apple Store. In the Apple Store, they actually let you set the fingerprint thing and then it just removes it after you turn the screen off. But it was really cool. Like, you got to see your fingerprint and stuff. Really awesome. But now, if someone wants to break into one of those phones, they have to go through all that effort and time and money. Like, that's an improvement. Security isn't perfect. Security is layered.
Yeah. I mean, you also have to have, like, a 2400 DPI printer, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not cheap, I don't think. You know what the bill of sale and all that stuff would be, Shaun?
I don't. I have to, this is not an everyday, I wonder if my girlfriend's cheating on me type thing, where you're going to try and break to the phone using this. It's not for that. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, of course, my number one source for scientific information, the Mythbusters, did a fantastic episode on biometrics and fingerprint scanners, and they used basically this exact same method and said, even the most high-tech, there's always some layer of method of overcoming it, but I absolutely agree with what Dan said, is that, no security is perfect, and I think people realize that, now that it has a fingerprint, it's impenetrable. I like to think people are smarter than that and realize that fingerprinting is more of a convenience than a high-tech security measure. I mean, obviously it's secure, but it's really more about the convenience of just being able to touch it and not having to put in your password. I think this actually, the Chaos Computer article, brings up a really interesting point I hadn't thought of. It says iPhone users should avoid protecting sensitive data with their biometric fingerprint, not only because it can be faked, as they demonstrated, but also you can be forced to unlock your phone against your will when being arrested. Forcing you to give up your passcode is much harder under many jurisdictions and require more layers. And I thought about that for a second, and I go, that actually makes sense. They can physically take your hand and force you to put your thumb on it, but they can't force you to recite the code. Again, I don't think that applies to most people, but it is an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think that, like, I was under the impression that most places, like, if you get pulled over or something, if you don't have a lock on your phone, it's like fair game, like the cops can just look, which seems pretty messed up to me. But if you do have a lock on your phone, they can't.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's believe it or not, that's actually the reason why I have a passcode on my phone. There's nothing very valuable or anything on there, but it's just kind of that I never thought about having a passcode on until I read somewhere that that's the case. So I don't know if the fingerprint makes it any, more or less easy, but I think it's pretty easy. And there've been videos and articles going around about there's a video of a guy using his cat's paw to unlock it. And, I think there's a video somewhere of a girlfriend, and it's her sleeping boyfriend, and, she takes the hand and puts, obviously.
Did you see the nipple one?
No, there's a guy. I read the headline, a guy who unlocks it with his nipple. It's cool, and Apple, from everything I've read, has done it much better than many other companies. But, I think it's a perfect point that security is layered. And
yeah. No, it's definitely not a panacea of personal security technology, but I was kind of like, I guess we'll see what happens in the weeks to come, but I'm kind of glad it's not easier than that.
Yeah, could have been a lot worse.
Right, and then it would have just been another flopped fingerprint reader BS.
Oh yeah, there's some fingerprint readers that you can just take a laser printer and just print out a flat black and white image and it'll take it. So, right. Having to go through this much effort at least proves something. Obviously, hacker groups like this, they're going to do anything they can to try and bypass it. That's their goal, regardless of how impractical it is.
Yeah. And if if you're really worried about stuff like that, I guess the solution is to just have a passcode.
The option is there. Again, I think it's a convenience thing. That's first and foremost. I mean, it's better than no password, but
yeah. And I think like at this point, they did. If that's the best way, or if that's the only way to subvert it, or the easiest way to subvert it, I think that's a relatively successful endeavor.
Agreed.
Well,
Colby,
sip of the tea there.
I love Colby. Believe it or not, Colby.
I had my pinky out, but I didn't have it up.
When I was going through last week's episode, editing out the 2 minutes, Colby loves to take pauses in his sentences, usually at that last word. So it's so much fun to try and edit him because it'll just be him talking and then pause, and then he'll finish. It's fun. That's a drinking game for all you at home.
I don't want to fuck it up.
When Colby pauses in the middle of his sentence, drink. Okay. So, unless there are any other specific thoughts on TouchID, why don't we move on to iOS 7 as a whole? It's been out a little less than a week to the public, although some of us have been using it a little longer. So I just wanted to get, I know we've talked iOS to death in the last couple shows, but I just wanted to see if I had a few observations, but I want to see if you guys had any observations now that you're using it on a daily basis, the final release.
The design works a lot better than it looks like it does. It makes me really happy. I don't know. It's nice colors. The default wallpapers are really snazzy looking. And when you start to get all the apps that use it, something that someone pointed out to me, I don't know if this is scientifically true, but it seems like more apps have already adopted the new iOS 7 visual language than have adopted the 2-year-old Android 4.0 visual language, which is interesting. And apps are even releasing new versions specifically that only convert to this, and they're not going to develop the old ones anymore. And you rebuy it, and people are still buying it. So I think that's an interesting commentary.
Yeah, I think the lock screen is awesome. I think it's just actually Apple always says their stuff is beautiful, but I think the lock screen is actually beautiful. And it's just it's your whole picture. It's whatever picture you have. It's the whole thing. It's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Instead of before, it was half the screen and the other half was Chrome.
Yep.
That's
not literally Chrome, but UI.
Yeah, that's
crap.
what I meant. Sorry. And that's fine, but it's so nice, and I mean the control. What's the thing at the bottom called? The
control center.
Control draw. Yeah, control center maybe. I mean that's sweet.
Yeah, that is something Android. I don't think Android has had it by default, but a lot of Android skins include it. Does Android have it by default? I guess you have it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
The Samsung one, I think it's Samsung's own because it's really ugly.
Yeah, on Android it's built into the notification center, so it's not separate like you see here. We go. Okay. I said 100,000 times, I'm going to hate this, I'm going to hate this, I'm going to hate this.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
I did. I was Mr. Hater. On a 1 to 10 scale, which is how I have to quantify everything, 10 being the best thing I've ever seen, I would say the old iOS for me was a 7. This for me is a 7.5, 8. Closer to an 8. So it's a marked improvement, but it's not a perfect 10.
Mm-hmm.
The reason, and I set up the over-the-shoulder camera because I just wanted to highlight a few things that I particularly liked. So let me switch to the for one, I don't like the dock. I think it's very weird to me with the frosted glass behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That bothers me. I don't like. I find it Well, before I get to the stuff I don't like, I want to highlight one app in particular that I think did a really great job converting to the iOS 7 design.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I knew somebody who worked on their team so I could explain to them how great of a job they did.
Yeah.
It's a little company called Facebook, and I am very critical of all the stuff they do, in case you haven't noticed. And I think they have done just a phenomenally outstanding job on the iOS 7ification of their app. There's no more of that kind of side tray you have to swipe to. It's all kind of right here in front of you, including this obvious More button that brings up a really just sort of clean menu.
Yep.
And I just think that with kind of the blue that blurs up into the top, I think it's just more inviting and engaging to users. And I've actually enjoyed, you wouldn't think a little design thing would do, but I've actually enjoyed using the app more, I think.
I thought little design things do that more than almost anything else.
They do, and that's kind of the biggest thing. Yeah, so props to the Facebook team, whoever you are.
I'll let those guys know.
Please do.
A lot of people worked really hard on that.
And it shows, and I love when design goes good. And that's kind of the thing I would say kind of overall about iOS 7 is that I don't care for any of the big new design stuff. I care about all the little tweaks that make it that. For example, when you open an app in a folder and then you hit the home button, it doesn't take you home, it takes you back to the folder. And then you hit the home again and it takes you back to the home screen. I prefer that. It's like the little tiny things, like I've barely used the control center, quite honestly. I don't use it that much, but what I do like is if you're playing audio, on the lock screen, you used to have to double tap the home button to get the play control. It's on by default. It's things like it's.
I didn't even notice that, but you're right. I forgot.
And it's great.
That used to be how the world was.
Because I use it like mounted up in the car, and it's great. It's a lot of. Like they sat down and they really looked at it and they said,
the fucking auto update apps. Holy shit.
That's great.
Android has had that forever, though. I think.
Yeah, I know, but it's awesome. Like it.
To me,
iOS has always had that stuff though. That like. You were waiting for the next release for them to fix.
Didn't you not even have an update all button for a long time on iOS?
Yeah,
probably.
You had to press them all individually.
I mean, it just seems to me like I enjoy you, and it doesn't matter to me that Android had it first, as long as iOS has it.
I agree. And
overall, iTunes Radio I actually like. I haven't used it a ton.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So, I was hanging around the other day listening to music I had on here, and I'm like, well, screw it. It's free, and it actually does a pretty good job of doing it doesn't have as much flexibility as a Spotify or Pandora. They kind of just take control for you, but I find they actually do a pretty good job of matching artists and stations, and, if you say play artists like this, they actually are pretty... I, for a second, could have sworn I was listening to what I already had on here because it was all stuff I already liked.
I'm sure Apple's been working on the music problem for much longer than Spotify or Pandora have ever been a thing. So I'm sure their metadata on that stuff is pretty robust. So
now the only thing that they don't do that I want them, because Apple basically already knows all the music I have. Just create one station based upon all the things I have and just say, this is what you will like.
Yeah.
Do that and I'll be satisfied. The other things I've noticed about the upgrade are some apps are buggy and crash, and that they didn't do that when I had before iOS 7. I don't know if that's just because they haven't updated or what.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting as good a battery life, and I think that's something in the settings because they changed some of the background app stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the battery life thing, though, that's that happens every iOS, and then the first update they release, it gets better.
That's what I anticipate. But outside of that, I'm pretty, and actually someone I work with, an older lady, got her first smartphone, and it's an iPhone 4S. And she's like, I'm just learning this. Like she just set up her email. Like she's brand new. And I said, go right and download iOS 7 right now before you learn anything. about iOS 6, because while it's not radically different, you will be thrown off.
Yeah, it's different enough.
It is, especially for the common user. So overall, I'm pretty happy, and I'm always thinking in the back of my head, if I had to buy a phone today, or recommend to someone to buy a phone today, what would I recommend? And before iOS 7, I was really on the fence. I was basically 50-50 between Android and an iPhone. And if Verizon had a decent Windows phone, I'd consider it, but they don't. But with this, I actually skew more towards the iPhone. And if I had to buy a phone today, it would probably be the 5S.
Cool. Yeah, I think my phone is nearing the end of its lifespan. Like my home button is slowly deteriorating. Its performance is no longer up to par.
It turns out, though, pro tip, you can turn on accessibility mode if your home button stops working, and you can use the phone entirely without the home button.
Yeah, I've seen that before, which is cool. I'm not to that point yet. But I am thinking I'm probably going to get a 5S. Or maybe a 5C. I don't think so.
Are you going to get it in gold?
No.
They sold out of gold. You can't get them anywhere.
Good. I don't want it. I think it's silly, but I will probably just get the black one because
Space gray, Colby. Space gray.
Space gray. Sorry.
Space
Maybe
gray.
White. Who knows? We'll see how I'm feeling.
Excellent. All right. Well, no more Apple. I promise.
All right, we're done.
No, we're done. We're going to move on to something these guys know a lot about. I'm trying to point the right. These guys know a lot about, and I know absolutely nothing about, and that would be Linux, and that would be SteamOS. So many of you, this is right up Dan's alley. Look at him. He just perked right up like a shot of caffeine. So many of you may know the fine company called Steam that provides software for computers that provides games to people.
No. It supplies ridiculously cheap games twice a year that you spend all your money on and never play.
Then never play.
Hey, that's a decent business model.
Yeah, it works. I don't even have to deliver the content to you because you never download it.
So for a long time, they've been the destination for PC gaming. And just like every other company and their brother, they're looking to move into the living room, the future of technology. And for a long time, they've definitely been hinting at they wanted to do that. First, in two parts. The first being Steam Box, which is the physical box, and Steam OS, the operating system that runs on it. Well, today, actually, they're going to have announcements all week, which is going to be interesting, so we'll follow up more next week. But today, actually, they announced Steam OS, the operating system that's going to run on this future, to be announced probably this week, Steam Box, that is based on Linux, and I know nothing more than that. So I don't know if you guys have read about this.
Oh yeah.
So talk about what this is and why it matters.
So for a couple years since before the release of Windows 8, Gabe Newell, I think, is the founder of Steam, and he came out early on against Windows 8. I think initially because of the Windows 8 store. Does anyone know if that was true or not? Or maybe it was just...
It was partially that, and I think it was partially just the design aesthetics.
Yeah, he didn't like it. And part of it might be the business model of Microsoft would now be competing with Steam in the selling games for download on Windows space, which is probably a bad place to be in when you're on that company's operating system. Part of it might just simply be that he didn't like it. But he said early on, he was like, Linux is going to be the future. And everyone was like, okay, they don't even have Steam for Linux yet. And then first, I think they made big picture mode so that you could hook a computer running Windows up to a TV and put Steam in big picture mode, and it would be like an Apple TV, Google TV interface with nice big buttons that would be easy to control. And then shortly after that, they came out with Linux, Steam, and they ported a bunch of their own really heavy hitter titles over that, like Team Fortress 2 and Half-Life 2, and a bunch of indie games, like a lot of stuff you'd see on Humble Humble Bundle are also available through Steam on Linux. So now, it has long been rumored that... And didn't they announce something at E3 or show like a black box or something? They had a box.
And they gave a few interviews, but that was about it.
They had a box that was totally nondescript that, for all purposes, was a Linux computer in big picture mode running Steam. I think they were just trying to show off big picture mode. But it was kind of clear from that point that that was what they wanted to do. And now they're announcing that they have this whole operating system called SteamOS, which is just Linux with Steam pre-installed, that you'll hook up to your TV just like you would a console and play video games. So the trick, the catch, is that it's going to maybe take a lot of buy-in from other developers, like, I don't know, people who make BioShock and Grand Theft Auto and, Quake. Although I think Quake already runs on Linux. But some of these kind of console-first developers, which I imagine are still a really big part of the PC game market, to buy into the Steambox idea and port their games to Linux, which isn't easy, I would imagine, especially if you never thought of doing that before you started the project. So that's where they're at. I want one just for the philosophy of it, and because I think Valve's a company that tries to do right. But yeah, that's all I know.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. I think Steam's great, and historically, I've had a Mac since I was 16, so I kind of forfeited a lot of gaming that I could have been doing. But Steam does have a Mac support for the titles that support it, and I think it's a great store.
Yeah.
I think they have a pretty big user base.
Yeah.
So if they can get some big name developers on board, I feel like there are also a lot of people who would do it on principle,
Which is not going to be enough to make it affect the bottom line in any way. I can't imagine.
No. But I guess people or...
Well, we're talking about it now because we believe in it in principle,
yeah.
So I guess there's that. I didn't read the Verge article. I think I just read their page that they put up. But they make some good points in here. One of the things that has always been awesome about PC gaming and has never really made it to consoles is this idea of user-created content. So
yeah. Not
only would players in the PC world affect the world, creating maps in Counter-Strike, for example, it's still the game, and the game allows you to do that, but you're creating these whole new things. Or Warcraft 3, where the custom map building tool was so powerful that people created whole new games on top of Warcraft 3 that have since become bestsellers like League of Legends and whatever Dota stands for. And then the whole idea of mods, where you just change the entire game out from under itself because you can. And that was always the big draw for me in PC world, besides the fact that the games were so much more full featured and rich because computers are always more awesome than the current gen consoles are. But this idea of user generated content, something that never made it to consoles. So it would be cool to see it make it to consoles in the disguise of Linux computers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely all for it. I wonder. I hope it comes out soon. I don't know. Maybe Christmas. That would be a good Christmas present for myself.
That's part of. Obviously, they haven't announced the actual box itself yet. Their next announcement is to Wednesday. So we'll find out then. I just think it's going to be interesting, if they can get the games, obviously. If you don't have games, you're dead in the water. And having the program for Linux is a whole nother ballgame. And actually, I think it'll be interesting if they just... because it's going to be weird, because, well...
What's on your mind, Shaun?
I'm just, because I want to say, well, will this cause developers to abandon developing for Windows and only develop for Linux, because why do both? But then, if people still want to run games on their computers, which are running Windows, you're still going to have to do both, so then what's the advantage of them doing it for Linux, except that they're going to be on the... I think that's kind of a weird balance game. Definitely one of the advantages, part of the announcement, they're saying that the boxes will have a built-in home streaming similar to the NVIDIA Shield, where they will wirelessly stream existing PC games from your PC to your box connected to your TV. So that's at least part of it. Of course, you have to make sure you have a powerful enough computer. Gamers usually do to handle that. Also coming to Steam OS is streaming video and music services. And apps and all that good stuff as well, media stuff.
In my experience, though, if you're, there are very few games that come out for Windows and not for consoles. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
So, and those are going to be, except maybe with the exception of the Xbox, those are going to be wildly different architectures. So if you're already thinking in your project, in your game development project, that you're going to be having a Windows version and a PlayStation 3 version and an Xbox 360 version, you're probably making the correct decisions to make having a Linux version not that much more work. You already have 3 different versions. In my experience, that's been true, but I've never written a game. It's when you don't think about those things in advance, and then you try to do it later, that it becomes impossible.
I think the other point I was going to make, and then we'll move on, but was that Valve doesn't have the household common man name recognition of an Xbox or a PlayStation, and I think that means they're going to have a limited launch market, and that means a more difficult path for developers to justify why they should write for it. So it'll be interesting. The other thing I want to quickly note again, SteamOS and Steambox, 3 models they're rumored to be building, but we will find out more on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that, and we'll probably mention it on next week's show, but we are going to move on to another story. What story do you guys want to do next? Don't all jump at once.
Can we do the human memory and the internet thing?
We can do. Colby, tell me all about this wonderful article from Slate.
Okay, so for a while now, I've been thinking about like I don't know, it's kind of that I almost don't even know things anymore, right? Like my brain is just like a semi-consistent look-aside cache for the internet, right?
A read-through buffer, if you will.
Yeah. And but 50% of the time the data's wrong.
But you got the C and the P of the cap theorem, or the A and the P.
Yeah. I mean, basically the idea being the internet is our this pool of our being humanity's collective knowledge, right? And I'm nearly directly connected to that, and I'm only getting more connected to that. And I just store useful bits in my brain, and the rest of it I can just go out and find some other way. And then today I was perusing the internet, and this article came up that was essentially, saying something has a similar premise, but basically they're saying that it's not that we don't remember things anymore. We still remember stuff. We still know things. Certainly, we know how to do stuff. Mm-hmm. We're not getting dumber in that sense. But the internet has become or search engines have become almost like another a very intelligent person in our social circles. So their idea is that typically, like, we use the people around us to find out things that we don't know. So say, you're out at dinner with your friends and we used to do this all the time. Like someone has a question about something, so you ask your friends, and chances are among 6 people, one of them might know the answer, or at least know something.
That's how Twitter works, right?
What's up? That's
how Twitter works, right?
I don't know. What's Twitter?
Never mind.
I guess so. Yeah. But crap, man! You totally killed my train.
Sorry.
You jerk. So anyway,
among all your friends, you ask all of them, and chances are someone will know the information you're looking for.
Exactly, and so they bring up studies where people who learn how to do something in a group and then are later tested on it in the same group end up performing better because different people in the group remember different things, right? So they can all ask each other, and between all of them, they can come up with an answer fairly quickly. So I guess their hypothesis or premise is that the internet has become either, like, in a sense, another friend in your group that you can ask questions, but it obviously has a much larger capacity than Shaun.
Mm-hmm. Shaun's capacity was pretty limited as it was.
Yeah, it's a problem. Thank goodness for Google. I would be dead.
Yeah, but that's my story. I was super excited to see that because I've been thinking about that forever, and forever I mean like 6 months, but long enough.
It's interesting. I read this was a while back, but obviously some university did a study or something. They found that the average human can have about 150 people in their sort of social circle that they know. And outside of 150 people, it's very unnatural for us, and that's why we don't remember that many names. And they believe it's because human tribes never used to get beyond that 150 number. And so in this age where we know a ton of people, especially in social media where we know way more, it's interesting that our brains are having to adjust on how to do that, and technology does it. And it's the same theory here with memory, in that our minds can only contain so much information, so why contain stuff that's, save room for more important things?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it's an interesting thing, and I think it warrants future study. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, actually, I got the sense that they were saying just the opposite. Like, we don't actually remember less, right? But
we remember differently.
Right. We remember differently, but in a sense we're smarter. Like, we don't remember any less, but we know more because our knowledge is augmented by
when you remove the necessity for knowing facts and specific information, that leaves room for more ideas and more free thinking and more conceptual things.
No, it's not even that though. It's like it's we still know facts and stuff, but we can just know more facts because we have near instant access to them. So we're just like, we're better off without being any worse off. Well, like, we're not losing anything. We just get stuff.
This kind of reminds me of the founder of Khan Academy did a TED Talk where he talks about this idea, or maybe it wasn't him, but there's this idea that, especially in math, instead of doing typical mathy things like, learning this concept until you know it dead cold, and then moving on to the next one, where you kind of have a more synthetic approach, where you like a brief overview of a bunch of things, and then some really hard problems, but you can use anything you want to do it, sort of thing, and you get the synthesis of like solving a really hard problem using a bunch of tools. It's not easy, but it's thinking at a scale that you just couldn't think if you were forcing yourself to remember and know all the underlying stuff first. So, yeah, interesting. We'll just have to see where this goes.
My brain hurts. It's too much. All right. Well,
Shaun's upset.
I'm upset. That's part of the drinking game. When I get upset, take a drink. So that is it for our stories this week. A lot of outstanding discussion, but it's time we move on to our picks. And I want to do something interesting this week, okay? Which I don't think is going to work in my favor, but we're going to give it a shot. We have 2 people in the chat room right now.
2?
Mr. Odecker and Ted is awesome. I know, I did that on purpose. And they've been chatting with us all episode, and we really appreciate them. So we're going to go through the 3 picks, and we're going to have them pick the best pick. They're going to vote. Each of them, guys, if you're listening, we're going to have you vote in the chat room, and you're going to pick a winner. So we're getting competitive.
They vote for the same thing.
Or we could have a split. Either way, one person is definitely
maybe
losing.
we should vote. Between the 5 of us, we should be able to pick a winner.
Yeah, all right, we can do that. So
I like that idea, though. It's not a competition to see who wins. It's a competition to see who doesn't lose.
I'm excited. So, guys, this is in your hands, but we're going to move on to our picks, and I'm going to jump in and go first with another non-tech pick like last week, and that's because I don't live in Silicon Valley or the Big Apple like these guys. I'm not around technology, so I don't get the cool, fun, exciting new stuff. So I have to get creative. I swear, I go around. People don't know new things where I am. So I'm going with a non-tech pick, okay? And it solves a practical problem. How many times has this happened to you, okay? You're sitting there enjoying your delicious bacon cheddar pretzel pieces,
wow.
and you're like, oh, those are horrific. And and so you're eating them, and then you're done, and you kind of do one of these, right? You ever do that?
Yeah.
And then you stick it in the drawer, and then you come back the next day, and they're like that.
Yeah.
And they're getting all gross, or you have like some clip that only holds about that much of it, right?
Yeah.
There is a solution, people, and they are called, and now I have to flip cameras again, and they are called Seal Sticks. Seal Sticks.
Wow.
Seal Team 6. SEALSTIX, and they are available on Amazon. And they're really neat, and they're much better than a clip. So the way they work is you just take your bag, you kind of fold it over in half, and then you just slide this clip in.
Doesn't look easy. Oh,
no, it's easy. Believe it or not, it does take a little bit of getting the hang of it. But what it does... Thank you, Dan. So what this does is it actually pinches the bag shut inside of the little O. And, I mean, it's sealed. It is, like, crazy. Like, there's nothing coming out. And it's airtight. And I've had it... When you buy the set, it comes with 3 of them. So you get 3 different sizes. A large, a medium, and a small. I have been using these for about 2-3 weeks. They have absolutely unequivocally extended the life of all the terrible chips and pretzels I eat, which I shouldn't. It is a great product, and they are on Amazon, and you get the 3 of these for $7.50 with Prime shipping.
So wait, what you're saying is that Seal Sticks make you fatter?
They do, and all for a reasonable price. So
great. This is America. That's great.
This is a practical problem I think affects most people. And so go out. I highly recommend these. Keep your chips lasting longer with Seal Sticks, SEALSTIX. And they're available on Amazon now. So give it a pick. Keep your terrible pretzels nice and tasty and crisp and not stale. So that is my pick this week. But maybe we should move on to something a little more, I don't know, technology-oriented. And we'll go down the list here, and we'll go to Colby.
Woo!
What is this thing you speak of?
So a while ago, the people who make BitTorrent, which is that thing that everyone uses quite happily to pirate music. And,
No. To distribute Linux distributions.
Right. Yeah. That too. Yeah. I downloaded something on BitTorrent recently that was totally legitimate, and it blew my mind. I forget what it was. I wish I remembered. But essentially, without getting into the nitty-gritty of it, it's a peer-to-peer file sharing service. So that means when you're downloading a file from BitTorrent, you're not connecting to a central server somewhere. You're connecting to a bunch of other people on the internet who have the file already, and you're taking chunks from all these people. So you end up downloading it super fast, and it's wicked cool.
Mm-hmm.
So a while ago, BitTorrent released what is, in a sense, a Dropbox clone. So basically, you install it on two of your computers, and then you can sync files between them. So you can synchronize a directory on those two computers, and it'll stay up to date. And it works just like BitTorrent does. So it uses just your machines as the peers in this file distribution network, which was all well and good, but it was like, until very recently, it was never good enough to. I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't willing to replace my Dropbox with it because there was no mobile app. And then they released an Android app, but just recently they released an iPhone app too. So now I can sync with BitTorrent within my own private cloud that literally never has to touch the cloud. It syncs directly from all your devices to
It's like
each
that
other.
rain cloud that just follows you around all day and just rains on only you all day long.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Exactly. And it is cool. It works pretty well. One of the things that's awesome is that if your two devices are on the same Wi-Fi network, it is blazing fast because they're not hitting the network at all.
Huh.
It's just over Wi-Fi. So because I hit that problem yesterday. I was like, not a problem, but it just happened. Yes, you could sync it to a hard drive. I had my work laptop and my home laptop, and I was just putting this on my work laptop to have all my like important docs that I need access to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it synced in like seconds. Like, you know, it was a couple hundred megabytes of data in seconds.
Yeah.
And I didn't, and I was trying to do it to my phone. It was taking forever, and I could not figure out why. And then I realized that it was taking the shortest possible route to the other computer, which is over our wireless network, because they were right next to each other. So it's really cool. I made myself sort of a personal cloud. I have a VPS set up on DigitalOcean. There's also a Linux client that has like a web UI that you can log into
cool.
and add files and stuff. So it is really cool. Is
there a setting so that you can opt a computer out and make it only a client and not a server? So like my personal computer is really strapped for space, but a lot of my other ones aren't. Can I just make that one like an on-demand download this file only when I ask for it thing, like you can with Google Drive?
I'm not sure. I know the iPhone app does that.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the mobile app.
Yeah, because you couldn't like store 50 gigabytes of data on your iPhone.
Yeah. And I mean, you're also bandwidth constrained there, so you don't want to be downloading gajillions of things all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can do that with the desktop apps. I can look in preferences right now.
This is cool. This is really cool.
Yeah, I don't see any option to do that. That doesn't mean that's not a thing.
I'll look into it. I'll get back to
everyone. Preferences. Yeah, I don't see that as an option, but it is really useful.
Cool.
And I'm really excited about working with this. It is. I mean, it's certainly not as simple as Dropbox. There's a bit of a technical barrier, especially if you're doing it on Linux, but much less so if you're on Mac or PC. Really, it's mostly you install the client and then you copy, like, each folder has this uniquely generated shared key that you just copy between your different machines. Actually, the mobile apps, you can use a QR code and, like, scan it from your other computer.
Your favorite new invention.
Yeah. It's the only time a QR code has ever been useful, ever. Literally ever. Yeah, but that's my story. You should check it out if you're at all interested and or suspicious of Dropbox.
Very cool. Very cool. All right.
And possibly NSA proof, since it doesn't have to pass through the public internet, maybe, like backbones.
Yeah.
There you go. Unless the encryption standard has been defeated, they use, but or infiltrated.
We can only hope.
But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Our topic for today, however, would be moving on to Dan's pick, and this is a pretty sweet one. We got to talk oyster.
Yes.
Not the cracker.
Not the cracker. Not the delicious seafood that you might put in some soups or eat raw off a shell if you're really crazy. But much like Steam could be the Netflix for video games, Oyster is the Netflix for books. So you pay $10 a month. They have some number of books. I don't know how many, but quite a bit. We can play this little thing. Here's what the UI looks like. You get tons of books. You can download 10 at a time onto your device, but you have access to as many as you want. So, like, you could be reading 9 at a time and then swap the 10th one in and out. I don't know why you'd ever want to do that. But there's tons of books on there. The interface for reading is really nice, so I guess I'll just switch to my camera. And they're not just crappy books either. I read the Starbucks book, which was hilarious because I have to imagine that they knew what they were doing with all these puns, but maybe they didn't. There's lots of percolating. There's ideas percolating to the surface. There's things that are steeping an awful lot. There's, getting your hands dirty and digging in. I can't stop sharing this screen, which is awesome. Maybe I'll start the screen share again. Maybe I'll press that button again. Alright, cool. Anyways, I guess this is what you guys will be looking at the rest of the day. The reading interface is really nice. It scrolls down in pages, which is surprisingly good. It has like the dictionary, and it has a nice chapter navigation and things like that. So it's pretty great. Check it out. It's by invite only, but you request an invite, and I got one in a few days, so I don't think it's that constrained. Definitely check it out. I read Starbucks book called Onward, and now I'm reading Cryptonomicon, which I never have, by Neil Stephenson, even though I've read his newer books, and this is supposed to be the seminal work. So that's pretty cool. So I got those books for $5 a piece at this point, and if I can get through that one before the end of the month, get even more bang for my buck.
I feel like it's also like a challenge, like you're racing.
Right, and the other thing, because this is iPhone only, actually, weirdly enough, I typically prefer to read it on my iPad, but because it's iPhone only, I've been forcing myself to read more when I only have my phone, which turns out most of the day. So, like, I'll just read throughout the day and on the subway, and when I'm, like, just on a break at work or whatever. It's really nice. It makes me read a lot more. I don't have to, like, take the Kindle out or remember to take the Kindle or the iPad with me or keep that out on the bus or the train. So it's really good. And now someone else start talking, so you don't have to stare at the screen anymore.
I'm always happy to talk, Dan. So I am going to do, thank you, all three great picks. I am going to do our usual end of the episode cleanup stuff, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask the chat room to make their picks for which of our picks they prefer. You can pick mine, Seal Sticks, you can talk BitTorrent Sync, or you can talk Oyster at oysterbooks.com. All three absolutely excellent. You got to check those out on the internet. On the internet. It's the information superhighway. I want to remind everybody that we are now on Monday nights, which is like the best kind of night. So definitely check us out live, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, and all the other time zones included. We'll be there live online at our website, don'tpanic.io. You can click the Listen Live link and get the live video as well as our fantastic chat room. We love having you in there. We had a lot of great feedback during the episode tonight, so thanks to those guys. And I also want to mention that if you can't listen live, listen after the fact. It's fine. Listen all week. It's there. Don'tPanic.io has all the recorded episodes, both video and audio for download. Subscribe to us. That's the best way to make sure you get our episodes every single week as they get published. I know I'm subscribing, and that's because I'm on the show. Do it. We're on iTunes now, and any other app that scrapes iTunes. Our RSS feed is going to be up on the website soon, so you can go directly from there. Use it on your favorite app of choice on your respective device. And, of course, our Facebook page, facebook.com/don'tpanicshow for all the updates, including keep a lookout for this week's. If you couldn't watch the whole episode, check out the 2-minute drill. We'll be putting that up in a few days as well. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we roll out this week?
Nope.
I don't.
Well, it looks like, according to the chat room, our fans are in, and I think this week's winner is BitTorrent Sync. So congratulations, Colby. You get some kind of minor victory. But I think that was wonderful, and I'm excited for Oyster Books as well. I think that's a cool idea. Anything that's the Netflix model, as soon as you say that, I'm interested. I want a lot for a little, so sign me up. So wonderful. Well, thanks to Colby and Dan for another fantastic episode of Don't Panic. And I suppose it's about time we end the show in the same way we do by reminding all of the fantastic watchers and listeners out there to relax, take a deep breath, and don't panic, because we will be back next Monday with another episode of Don't